Hello, my name is Catherine Bybee. I am coming to you from San Diego, California. I am a New York Times bestselling author. I've written well over 30 novels and novellas. My latest novel, My Way to You, was released last month. I am best known for my contemporary romance novels. However, this novel is more of a women's fiction novel with a romantic element to it. The novel was inspired by a wildfire that blew through my Santa Clarita property that I'd lived on for over 20 years, about 3 years ago. My sons were still living at home at the time, and the experience was quite horrific, but what was surprising was the experience that happened afterwards. I'm starting very early in the book. My heroine, Parker, she is a young heroine. She is left with the charge of taking care of her younger brother and sister after their parents pass away very early in the prologue. So I am going to start this excerpt where the flames are at their thickest. From across the property, the sound of the wind chimes slamming against each other screamed like an omen in her head. Still, denial sat in the far corner of her brain. This isn't happening. The desire to sit idle and cry was huge. Back inside the house, she grabbed a quilt her grandmother had made and ran down the hall, removing family photos from the walls, dropping them onto the blanket until it was too heavy to pull. She filled the back of her brother's car. Scout ran beside her, smart enough to stay close. The same couldn't be said for the family cat. Sushi was nowhere to be found. Austin ran into the house. "Parker, you have to see this." She hadn't been in the house 10 minutes, yet walking outside was like walking from daylight to midnight. Air swirled like a hurricane. The noise the fire was generating was deafening. They ran down the driveway and looked up the ridgeline. It was as if someone had poured a massive spray of accelerant and a wall of fire exploded as a result. The captain of the fire department she'd spoken with most of the morning stood looking at the flames. "You have a defendable house," he told her. "That doesn't look like a fair fight," she told him. He looked around with strange excitement in his eyes. "Now would be when I have to tell you to leave." Not that they had much of a warning. "Would you, if it was your home?" Austin asked. The captain blinked. "I'm a firefighter." She saw her father's fighting look in her brother's eyes. Mallory appeared more like their mother, ready to flee. "The road leading to the neighborhood is already backed up," the captain told them. He stared directly at Parker. "I'm going to save your home." Bits of hot ash started to rain down on her skin. "What's going to happen now?" she asked. The firefighter looked across the streaks of flames that started to surround them. "It's going to get really interesting, really fast." His crew had already backed up their trucks in the driveway and were running around laying out hoses. The three of them moved back in the house and watched the fire as it crept closer. For less than a minute. "I want to stay," Austin told them. "And do what?" Mallory yelled at him. "Dad would stay." "Dad isn't here," Parker kept her voice even. "I don't want my car to fry," her sister told them. The cars were outside the house and filled with anything that was worth saving. Scout barked at her feet as if adding his 2 cents. Leave or stay? Outside, the flames crept closer. The hillside next to the barn was starting to go up. Before she could make a sound, the fire alarm in the house went crazy. Without thought, Parker ran through the house to see if the fire had somehow gotten in. The phone rang. She knew without looking that it was the alarm company calling to ask about the fire alarm. There was nothing in the house worth their lives, and the path for them to exit the canyon was starting to catch fire. Parker grabbed the leash for the dog and hooked him in. "We're leaving." "I want to stay," her brother argued. She grabbed her sister's hand, stared her brother down. "We've already lost Mom and Dad, and none of us can do anything to save the house." He blinked. The boy he once was looked more like the man he was going to become. "Okay." Parker sighed in relief as they fled the house. Outside was like a war zone. Flames were so close that the heat of them was a sunburn on her bare arms. Smoldering ash dripped from the sky, making it impossible to breathe without coughing. Scout jumped into Austin's car, and one by one they drove down the quarter-mile driveway as they exited their family ranch. The last thing Parker saw before leaving her childhood home was the orange glow of flames catching one of the heritage oaks on fire. All right. This is a story about hope. It is a story about perseverance and inspiration. It certainly was for me. And I think that's what we need right now as we're all sequestered in our homes and doing the right thing. Some people are going through their most most worst and horrible nightmares, and the rest of us just need to stay put so we can do what we can to make it better for everybody. So stay home, read a good book. Thanks for listening.